Hi, this is Understanding My Community for USD 259, Wichita Southeast High School Buffaloes in Wichita, Kansas. So, if we look at the sociological inventory, issues of time, labor, money, when we look at Wichita and we look at the school district overall, we're looking at a lot of labor, a lot of money because the district overall is the largest district in the state of Kansas. Now, as far as issues of time, there's going to be a lot of time spent, not just from the district perspective, but each building spends a lot of time and the leaders spend a lot of time in the buildings and within the community itself. For the customs, traditions, and population characteristics, the population is fairly large in Wichita. And as far as the customs and the traditions, it's a very diverse community, and there are people from all over the world who end up in our school district. So you're looking at a lot of different customs, a lot of different traditions, all trying to blend together and come together. In our communication groups and leadership, our leadership, you're going to see several pieces in each building. So you're going to see at least 3 to 4 leaders in every building in the Wichita School District. As far as the communication groups go, those leaders are going to communicate mostly with AMAC, which is our district building. But as far as communication goes overall, that seems to be one of the struggles for the Wichita district. When you have so many people involved, you're going to have issues with communication, and that's what we run into. As far as how we communicate with the community overall, each building is more in charge of that than the district itself, and it seems to work a little bit better having that closer communication within the community. If the district itself were to communicate on its own, it would be a little bit more difficult. Now, they do communicate some things, but overall, most everything is left to each building itself. If we look at the economic conditions and the political structure, the economic conditions are much better than a lot of other places. In Wichita, the economy is growing still, and we see a big boom in a lot of the companies that help with education and community outreach. You'll see that those companies are constantly giving money not just to the schools, but they're also giving money to our YMCA's and to a lot of other areas within the community as well. And the political structure you're going to see is very quite normal in comparison to most all other communities and districts. And as much as we don't want politics to play a huge part in the community, of course it's going to, and in education as well. And with some of the issues that are currently taxing our nation and our world, there are social tensions that have occurred. Now, I would say the most prominent tensions at this point within the community have to do with contracts for our teachers. And that is going to be a huge area of tension for quite a while. And the diversification of the community is huge. And we have all different religions, customs, traditions, cultures, backgrounds, races, economic situations of all kinds. When we look specifically at the customs and traditions, the common attitude and idea in the community is one that is very family based, and it is a good area to raise a family. So you're going to have some more of the traditional values and customs, but you are also going to have other traditions and values that come outside of that realm of the tradition, the traditional thoughts and values. The habits of the people are going to be one of um, based on family and the family structure. And the social action is one of a tight knit community. Even as large as Wichita is, you're going to see that because there are so many different suburbs around the Wichita area, that the attitude kind of floods into Wichita that you need to be a tight knit community and you need to depend on one another and be there for one another. And the impact of the race and religion and the origin of the economic and political structures all carry into that as well, because you're going to have a large diverse group, but within those large diverse groups you're going to have all of that coming together with the traditional values of family. And all of that is going to also affect the policies that are made by the leaders as well as the curriculum, because parents are going to be a little bit more involved than a normal district, and they are going to voice their opinions on the curriculum as well as the policies. And any change that occurs is handled well, but needs to take more into account the family structure and the parent involvement that we do have. Now, we always welcome more parent involvement and we want those parents involved. But with the parent involvement that is already occurring, change needs to be directed and communicated a little bit better with families and parents when those changes happen. Within the population, the education level varies, and we're going to see a large gap because you're going to have those who are not as educated all the way up to those who are very highly educated because it is a very diverse area as well as a very highly populated area. And the age is gonna be, in the middle range. You're gonna have mostly those who are in that middle range, and you're gonna have more females than males. However, we also see a structure within the Wichita area as east versus west, and, as strange as that sounds, you're gonna have the east side of Wichita is the older area, and the west side is the, um, newer area, up and coming, growing a little bit more, and you're gonna see old money versus new money as well. So you're gonna have those structural differences. And the occupations, of course, are going to go everywhere from very low to very high as well. But you're also gonna see in the occupational area, there is a big stress on education, and we have the aircraft industry that makes us unique in Wichita. But within that aircraft industry, the variety of occupations in aircraft is also very unique because you're going to have occupations that do not require as much college and just requires you to get through high school. And then you're going to have those occupations within aircraft at the higher level that do require a master's degree or a doctorate degree. So you're going to have that huge diversification within the occupations themselves. And the race and nationality and social tensions are lower than most of the big cities around. And you're going to see that the community itself deals with those issues a little bit better, because they are more close knit and they're able to have better communication, better conversation about those conflicts and the diversity issues and the social tensions that occur within the not just the community but the nation and the world itself. And when we talk about that communication, there's going to be several different types of communication that are used. Most of what is used is going to be social media, and that's across the board, whether it be nationally or around the world overall. But we try to do a lot face to face in Wichita, and what we can't do face to face, we try to do over the phone. Most of us all use email, and we try to limit the social media to make sure that the conversations that need to take place are more either a face-to-face value or person on a more personal level rather than just through social media. As far as the district is concerned, there is a breakdown of communication and a lack of communication from district level to building level at times, and then again from building level to teacher level. And those are going to be gaps that need to be bridged at some point, and they need to be continually fostered and worked on. From the district standpoint of communication, you're going to see radio, television, news, all sorts of different communication channels that are used. Um, One of the areas in which the Wichita district is very unique, and I think that we bridge the gap very successfully, is with foreign language. And we offer a foreign language accommodability with all of our schools throughout the entire district. We accommodate all any language you could possibly think of, honestly. And we will send translators out to anywhere that they need to go in order to translate for parents, students, teachers, etc. Whenever those people are needed, they are a phone call away. And that is a very unique area to the Wichita district that we're very thankful to have. And most of the news information for the Wichita district is going to come through AMAC, which is our building, our district building. But when we try to get news out to the community, we're looking at a lot of social media and news networks as to how that is communicated. And when we look at the uh, communication and diversification through language, culture, race, we do have lots of different community groups. Because it is such a diverse area and such a large area in comparison to other groups in Kansas. You're going to have a lot of different groups and organizations, not just for our cultural and traditional areas, but we're going to have different organizations as far as our teachers' unions. Our students have different organizations and groups that are all very diverse and have a lot of influence, not just on student bodies, but on the district as a whole. We have formal groups, informal groups. We have groups that naturally form, and then some that are advertised to come together. Um, you're going to have a lot of organizations that come together in order to solve issues and problems within the district itself. And some of those, sometimes as a district, when you have a larger district and you always want to form a committee to to fix that problem, sometimes you can fall into the trap of overdoing it and we committee the death out of things, so to speak. And sometimes that happens. But for the most part, these groups are brought together and they do help to create policy and curriculum and figure out the areas of textbooks. Um, but I think that when those groups or organizations are created, we also need to keep in mind that we need to be more aware of those who are directly involved. We need to have a voice from more of those who are going to be directly affected by the decisions made in that group, such as students and teachers and parents. Leadership. Our leadership is a very strong group in the Wichita district. And like I said, in each individual building, we are going to have leaders in numbers. So you're going to have in a large high school, you're going to have 4 to 5. Most of the time, you're going to have at least 5 leaders in that building because of the buildings being so large. They are a huge influence in not just the buildings and the district, but in the community itself. And you see that that influence carries over into our students and into our families and into our parents. And a leader in our district is someone who actually, for the most part, will go out of their way to make sure that we accommodate our families and our students as much as we possibly can. Within Southeast High School itself, we have incredible leaders who make house calls still when necessary in order to help families and help students the best that we can. And these different positions, because they are highly regarded in our schools, you will see that they take those positions very seriously. The people in those positions take those positions very seriously because they know the impact that they have on our students, on our families, and on our parents. And that, of course, impacts the community overall. And the correct characteristics of these leaders is second to none, especially if we look directly at Southeast High School. You're going to see that they're able to handle situations that are so incredibly diverse because we have a huge, diverse population within the schools and within the community and within the district overall. The leaders make themselves very well known and very accessible so that if parents, students, teachers, anybody who might need them, they are easily accessible to those people who need them and whenever they need them. And these leaders also make accessible to our teachers, our students, our parents, those in the community, any type of information that they might need as well. And they are a direct outlet for that information. And these leaders try to stay as neutral as possible, of course, as far as political, emotional, and personal stances. You try to look at the situation from a perspective of what is best for kids. And that's one of the things that, one of the characteristics of our leaders that is very unique and makes Wichita and the schools in Wichita a better place for education than many other places. Within the community itself, the economic condition is one that is growing. And we see that not just within the teachers and their salaries, but within the community as a whole. And I know that we have issues, being a former teacher within the Wichita district, um, I understand the frustrations in the contracts and um, the money issues that come. However, I've also been on the other side of the coin now as well, and I've seen the other districts in the state of Kansas as well as other states. Now, when we're looking at the economic conditions of the area overall, yes, Wichita is a more booming area, but we also have to consider that the teachers in the Wichita district are the highest paid teachers in the state of Kansas. So, going from Wichita to the Manhattan and Junction City area, as a teacher who has been in education for almost 14, 15 years, I took a ten to $12,000 pay cut per year, and that's huge. So we have to recognize that the economic stability of Wichita provides great value for our teachers and our leaders. And with all of that stability, you're going to have a greater income growth for education as well. And you're going to see that the community overall, as well as the district, stresses good education. And we see that in the fact that we pay our teachers more than other districts do throughout the state of Kansas. Um, the businesses are more highly involved in education in the community, and that's a huge asset. And I think that the Wichita district is doing a good job of trying to bridge that gap between education and business, or community and education. But there always can be a better relationship formed, and they need to continue to work on that as well. Politics should be separate from education. However, we all know that politics is a huge part of education. And in the Wichita district, it is quite political. And some of that comes through unions, some of that comes through just the nature of education in and of itself, because education becomes a political factor in most everything. If we look at where the money is spent in education, we see that uh, the trend used to be that a lot of money went into unions, and then unions would fight for whatever the group decided. Now we're seeing kind of a trend come away from unions. There are lots of teachers who are feeling that the unions were not fighting for the causes that they felt they needed to fight for, that their money was not being spent in the best ways, whatever the case may be. And we are also seeing that a lot of money is being spent on people to come in and help train. But I think that we're also seeing a lot of money wasted in our professional development. And the reason that I say that is because we can professionally develop our teachers to death, but if we're not giving them time to use this professional development, if we're not giving time to the process to allow that development over time to show progress, then every time we bring something in new every year, we're wasting our money. And I think that that's one of the areas within the Wichita community that needs to be worked on. When we look at um, the money that is spent on the different functions of government in the Wichita area, I think that the money is spent well. Uh, and if for some reason the Wichita district needed to pass a bond issue and tax money was needed for education, uh, I think that the community overall would come together and they would help fight for that, because education is a priority within the area. The social tensions in Wichita are a whole lot less than they are in other areas of the country right now. The interracial confrontation that is happening as far as other communities around the world, we're seeing that there are some tensions, but it's a whole lot better in Wichita than it is in a lot of other places. And thankfully, those tensions are being dealt with in a well dealt with manner. There are gangs in Wichita. However, the gang activity or the way that we have dealt with gang activity in the past has it was worse in the past than it is now. And so we've seen kind of a growth of the way that we deal with those tensions and the way that we deal with that within the school buildings themselves as well. And there's a better handle on that now than there used to be. There are going to be it doesn't matter where you are or what you do, there are always going to be cliques and groups, and people tend to human nature is it takes over and people flock together as they are commonly bonded, as well as there are fewer discrimination issues in Wichita than there are in other areas. Now, that's not to say that there are not any discrimination areas. Of course, there's always going to be um, discrimination issues. However, within the Wichita district, it is less than there are in other places. So, um, you're going to have, and some of the reasons for those interracial confrontations and discrimination issues come from outside sources like the media and things that are going on in other areas of the world, and then it makes you look at your own community. But overall, the cultural differences, the racial differences, the religious differences, all of those things are dealt with in a much better manner in the Wichita area and in the community than they are in other places. So when we look at information overall, there are a lot of surveys, questionnaires, uh, community involvement that occurs in Wichita within the school buildings themselves, as well as the district overall. You're going to see that board meetings they're streamed and they are very highly attended, and there's a lot of involvement with the board meetings. And you're also going to see that there is communication that is had in all of the different buildings from uh, there's a wide variety and access to phone numbers and email addresses, and all of those things are very easily accessible so that if information is needed, it can be acquired. You're also going to see that our students take a lot of surveys. Our teachers take a lot of surveys. You're going to see questions asked constantly. The problem that we see is that what do we do with that information? In the Wichita district, I don't think that it is used as accessibly as it could be, but the information is gathered. It's just how is that information then used? And we also see some power structures within the buildings, within the community, within the district. All of those are from a top down power structure that is normally seen. However, you're also going to see that there is a vested interest and there is a lot of time spent in trying to properly accommodate relationships between administrators and teachers and the higher power levels with the lower power levels, and trying to streamline that a little bit better. Multicultural issues are huge in the Wichita district. We have a very wide, diverse, huge multicultural area in the Wichita district within the buildings themselves, as well as the district and the community. We have a vast difference of religions and races and cultures and people who come to the middle of Kansas and from all over the world. So all of those are woven into everything. We also see that within most buildings, you're going to see that a lot of those multicultural issues are talked about, they are discussed, and they are used as information to inform our students of the differences and all of the different cultures that are within our area so that there is a better understanding of the cultures. When we talk about public opinion and we see all the public um, involved in the informational value of the district, there needs to be a better job of how the public opinion plays a part in education in Wichita. And the public opinion at the school board meetings is taken into account, of course, and they are highly involved, and there are a lot of people who attend those meetings. but there needs to be a better job of getting the public to understand education and how the education is run in the Wichita district, and not just closing ourselves off to just education, because it's easier for those in education to understand education. We need to get the word out and have others understand what's going on truly with our students and within our buildings, so that we can have not just more value to that education, but the community as a whole can be a better structure and to help with education in a much better way. Some of those are going to come through public opinion surveys, and there are some public opinion surveys that are done, but I think that there could be a better job of that done, and there could be more face to face. We need to have community liaisons that make that happen, and I think the more face to face value that you put with that, those who have been working in the Wichita district and they go out and talk with the public, you're going to have a better bridge in that gap of understanding between the two. Thank you.